Welcome back to Indiana News Desk. With Section 5 of I-69 finished and construction of Section 6 already underway, Bloomington is now connected to the rest of the U.S. with an interstate highway. But as part of our Inquire Indiana series, Bloomington resident James Brosier, yes, that's the husband of my colleague Barbara Brosier, wanted to know why it took so long.
Indiana has earned, in more than one way, its reputation as the crossroads of America. It was a Hoosier, Carl Fisher, one of the founders of the Indianapolis Speedway, who conceived of the Lincoln Highway, one of the first routes to connect the coasts. And it was a Washington, Indiana man who envisioned a NAFTA superhighway that would connect Mexico to Canada. David Graham lobbied for more than a half-century for an interstate that would connect his town to the rest of the country. James Brosier wondered why it took so long.
When the interstates were built in Indiana in the 1970s, why did Bloomington never get an interstate?
To find that out, I spoke with Matt Dellinger, author of the book Interstate 69, The Unfinished History of the Last Great American Highway. He says it seems logical that a city like Bloomington, centrally located with a long history of industry and the largest university population in the state, would be connected to the interstate system. But he points out that Bloomington is the 7th largest city in Indiana.
In your question is an assumption that the top 7 cities in every state should be connected to each other by interstate highway. If you looked at a map of the U.S. where that assumption became true, we would have 4 times as many highways as we have now.
But Brosier is surprised that Bloomington didn't get special consideration when those building projects were underway decades ago.
The one reason I always thought Bloomington deserved, I guess, an interstate earlier than it got one was just because the state's university is here.
Dellinger says while there are other considerations at play, the real driver of road construction in America is economics.
The building of roads in America has always been about the economy. Troops, there's kind of a myth that the interstate system was designed so that you could land an airplane every county had to have a stretch of highway where you could land an airplane. That is not true.
He says the opposition to construction of I-69, which was especially strong in Bloomington, is a good indicator that for many residents, access to an interstate highway didn't outweigh environmental and quality of life concerns. And he points out that even though until very recently there wasn't an interstate highway running through Bloomington, it's not as if the city was remote or isolated.
It wasn't as if, no one could get to Evansville from Indianapolis until I-69 was built. You could drive down through Louisville and over on divided 4-lane highways. You could drive over to Terre Haute and down on 4-lane highways. But it took you 15 more minutes or 17 more minutes or whatever it was.
Now the city of Bloomington is connected to an interstate highway as construction of I-69 continues northward toward Indianapolis. But for a lot of Hoosiers, what it really means is the commute from Bloomington to Evansville is down by about 15 minutes. For Indiana News Desk, I'm Tyler Lake.
And that is just the latest story from our Inquire Indiana series, but there's more to come. We want to explore the questions you have about the Hoosier State. You could even be part of the process as we dig deep to find the answers. Just go to WTIU.org/InquireIndiana and tell us what you want to know.